Part 1, History of the Futures Markets.
Episode number 2.
Futures from Ancient History Through the Dark Ages. Derivative contracts emerged as soon as humans were able to make credible promises. In a commercial environment, it is essential for a credible promise that it is somehow recorded. Writing was invented in Mesopotamia in the 4th millennium before Christ. The invention of writing satisfied the administrative and commercial needs of the first urban society in human history. The first derivative contracts were written on clay tablets, which are extremely durable. These derivatives were contracts for future delivery of goods, that were often combined with a loan.
Here's the first contract of this kind written around 1900 before Christ. Here's another contract for future delivery of barley, dated from around the 17th century before Christ, between two farmers and a king's daughter. The emergence of contracts for future delivery enhanced the efficiency of agricultural markets in Mesopotamia, and they were a prerequisite for the expansion of long-distance trades. The ascendancy of the Greek civilization began around 1000 BC. Even though Greek laws favored spot transactions, there was an exception for seaborne trade, because Athens depended on the import of grain from Egypt. Alexander, who invaded the Middle East in the 4th century BC, left the local commercial and legal system intact, which had descended from Mesopotamia. Hellenistic Egypt is the second period in history from which a large number of commercial contracts has survived, because papyrus is almost as durable in the desert climate of Egypt as the earlier clay tablets. The Romans, who copied much of Greek culture, initially adopted the Greek restrictions on contracts for future delivery. But these restrictions clashed with the commercial realities of the vast Roman Empire, which reached from Britannia to Mesopotamia at its peak. Commodities moved along a network of new roads, and the ships of Roman merchants crisscrossed the Mediterranean. The city of Rome, whose population grew to 1 million people, depended on trade with the provinces, particularly the import of wheat from northern Africa. During the 3rd century BC, Roman law caught up with commercial practice, providing for contracts for future delivery of goods.
Sextus Pompeius, a lawyer in Rome, distinguished between two types of contracts. Vendita Resperti provided insurance against crop loss and the hazards of long-distance trade, including the loss of ships in maritime trade. The Vendita Resperti was void if the seller did not have the goods at the delivery date. Vendita Spe. It did not provide for any reprieve to the seller in case he was unable to deliver the goods. The early Roman law held dearly the principle of privity of contracts, which meant that every contract had to be established between two parties, and was not transferable to a third party. The privity of contract law, and many other issues, held back the Roman Empire economy, and in 476 AD, its western part fell to barbarian tribes, and the Dark Ages began. The barbarian tribes, that overran the Roman Empire, lacked commercial codes. Instead, church bodies, which had increasingly assumed administrative functions in the late Roman Empire, continued to apply Roman commercial law during the Dark Ages. Thus, the legal framework for contracts for future delivery remained in place during the Dark Ages. But there was no further progress in the design of derivatives, because there was not much need for them in the medieval economy, which was both local and feudal.